All right, Matt. So the other day when I was on the way to get Michael, I was air drumming to Rush driving down the road. And
it's a good one, though.
Yeah. And at a stoplight, I lost one of my sticks out the window. So I had to change the song over to a Def Leppard thing.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Good.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Graveyard. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Adam.
And my name's Matt.
Now, pull up a tombstone or settle into your casket and get comfortable because this is Graveyard Tales. All right, everybody, here we are again. Matt, how you doing tonight, brother?
Well, I'm doing all right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sick again.
I know. I don't know how.
We are barely just 5 weeks into 2025, and I have been sick twice.
Yep.
Now.
Yep.
So it's not starting out too well for me.
Well, let's hope that just means you get it all knocked out in the beginning of the year, and you don't have any more the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So before we get into tonight, because tonight's going to be kind of a deep episode, let's say go check out the Podbelly Network at podbelly.com. You can find a list of shows that we're happy to be associated with, and you can find some tips and tricks on podcasting. Also, while you're surfing the interweb, looking to buy something or go do something for the weekend. If you're looking to buy something, go over to one of our sponsors. Go in the bottom of our show notes. Actually, I take that back. It's the top of our show notes. I'm used to saying bottom because of our sources. It's the top of our show notes. And you can find links to go over to our sponsors' websites. You can find our codes if you need one and get you something. We've got a lot of cool sponsors this year. Got more cool sponsors coming up potentially this year, but go get you something. You can get something cool and you can help out Matt and I and Graveyard Tales a lot because if you buy something from them, they come back and they will sponsor Graveyard Tales again.
Exactly.
But if you don't want to buy something, but you still want to help us out, you can go over to patreon.com/Graveyard Tales and you can sign up to become a patron. We have 3 different levels and a buttload of episodes on there. We've got a 1, 5, and a 10. And all 3, they get an audio version of the bonus episode. Our 5 and 10 get audio and video version of it, and they get audio and video ad-free versions of the main episode. If you want to do that, not hear an ad, you sign up $5 or $10 level on Patreon, and you can get ad-free. Also, our $10 a month, they get all of that. Plus, they get our second show, Side Quest, that Matt and I are having a lot of fun doing. I got a cool one for Matt tonight that we're going to record after we do this. So you're always getting something over there. We've got a ton of different topics, a ton of different episodes. I mean, years worth. And I promise you, you're going to enjoy it. Yeah,
absolutely. It is. It's a lot of fun. We talk about a lot of different things. We kind of let loose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I haven't said this in a while, man. I may not have said this in a year or so, but share Graveyard Tales with somebody.
Yeah.
If you know somebody out there that likes our brand of jackassery or likes the stuff that we talk about, send them over to us. Have them check us out. Have them start on the newest episode. Just listen to the newest episode and make your decision there. I know a lot of people, when they start a new podcast, they go all the way back to the first episode. I always tell people, start with a new one because you'll see where we've evolved to. First, we're proud of our first episodes because we're learning, but we were learning.
Yeah.
And so it's not up to the quality and standards that Matt and I hold ourselves to nowadays. So share it, share a newer episode with somebody. If it's easier, share the YouTube link with them. Go over to our YouTube page and share the YouTube link for one of the newer episodes and have them check us out. And if you do that, we really appreciate it because we're always trying to grow the graveyard. We're always trying to get more ears to listen to our droning, monotonous voices.
That's right. Yeah.
So, on that note, Matt, what are we talking about tonight, brother?
So, tonight we're going to pick up, we teased this at the end of our last one, talking about all the mysterious things that go on around the Grand Canyon, all the haunted paranormal activity that occurs in and around the Grand Canyon. And we teased one because we wanted to give it its due. But tonight we're going to talk about a story that comes out of the Grand Canyon that is, well, we're going to have to let you decide. This thing it is crazy. We're going to talk about Kincaid's Cave.
That's right.
And you may have heard about this once you listen to the story, but you may not necessarily know that term Kincaid's Cave.
Right.
But you may have come up, especially if you're into reading and looking up stuff like Adam and I do in this realm. You may have come across this idea that there were these ancient artifacts found in the Grand Canyon that didn't really fit.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no reason they should have been there.
Right.
This is that story. Okay. So we're going to dig into this. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it is a crazy story.
Twists, turns, switchbacks. It's all.
Yeah. It's like Unusual Suspects, it's got a big twist at the end. No. But like I said, we're going to let you guys decide on what you think about this, but let's get into it. And, Adam's going to start us off with the story of Kincaid's Cave.
All right. So as we always say, go check our sources down on the bottom of the show notes. That's where I get the bottom of the show notes from the intro. I always mess up, but bottom of the show notes, you can get our sources. You can find where we found all this information. We got a ton of sources this time because, like Matt said, this is a very interesting episode filled with twists and turns and unexpected things and all that. But go check those out. You can continue learning. You can see where we got all the information. But before we get into the story, remember all the groups of people that we talked about living in and around the Grand Canyon on the last episode?
Yeah.
Just keep those people in mind. But I want to touch on a few of the religious and spiritual beliefs around the Grand Canyon quickly, kind of before we get into the story, just to put back in your mind what was believed about it and how this might tie into the artifacts and stuff that were supposedly found in the canyon. Now, many tribes have creation myths tied to the Grand Canyon. So most tribes that live around there believe there's a creation myth with the Grand Canyon. The canyon is considered a holy place, with the Hopi viewing it as both their genesis and their final spiritual home. So it's the beginning and end for the Hopi. The Grand Canyon has been used for rituals and ceremonies for centuries, connecting the physical and spiritual worlds. Some tribes believe the spirits of ancestors reside in the canyon, particularly around the confluence of the Colorado and the Little Colorado rivers. Now, the canyon's ecosystem provides medicinal plants and natural resources that are crucial for a lot of these cultural practices and the traditional medicine. And as you know, Matt, I am an herbalist at heart. I practiced herbalism for many years, so traditional medicine is big for me, and it's anytime I see something like that, it's always interesting where they found their medicinal herbs or where they found this plant that helped them out. And for a lot of these cultures living around the Grand Canyon, it was within the ecosystem of the Grand Canyon. There's some tribes that they would make pilgrimages to specific sites in the canyon. Like the Hopi would go there and they would gather the yellow clay and the salt from the canyon for different religious ceremonies. And the Hopi also believed that the spirits travel to the Grand Canyon after death, and then they move throughout the world as clouds. So for them, like I said, it was the beginning and the end. And when you die, you go to the Grand Canyon and you spend a little bit of time there, and then you're remade into a cloud and you move around the earth. Specific locations within the canyon, like the Sipapuni, which is a geological dome, also hold special spiritual meanings. So if you look at the geography of the Grand Canyon, to me, there's some really interesting looking canyons, caves, geological formations and stuff within the canyon that when you think about it, that wouldn't necessarily come to mind, like the dome. You wouldn't think there would be a geological dome within the canyon, but there is. Now, let's talk about Kincaid. Now, on March 12th, 1909, the Arizona Gazette published this article about a guy named G.E. Kincaid, and it was titled, G.E. Kincaid Reaches Yuma. Now, it said Kincaid was only the second person to ever make the entire trip down the length of the Grand Canyon. So, that's interesting to me that, and I'm going to say this, if Kincaid actually did this, then he was only the second person to ever do it.
Yeah, right.
So I would think that would be more of a common thing. You just hop on and, maybe not in one shot, but you'd hop on at the beginning and just kind of make your way down. Rivers were a freeway for people back then, so why not? But now let's look at the article from March 12th. It's kind of a short article without a lot of detail, but we'll look at it. It says, quote, G.E. Kincaid of Lewiston, Idaho, arrived in Yuma after a trip from Green River, Wyoming, down the entire course of the Colorado River. He is the second man to make this journey and came alone in a small skiff, stopping at his pleasure to investigate the surrounding country. He left Green River in October, having a small covered boat with oars and carrying a fine camera, with which he secured over 700 views of the river and canyons, which were unsurpassed. Mr. Kincaid says one of the most interesting features of the trip was passing through the sluiceways at Laguna Dam. He made the perilous passage with only the loss of an oar. Some interesting archaeological discoveries were unearthed, and altogether the trip was of such interest that he will repeat it next winter in the company of friends. So we can see in this original article that they're hinting at archaeological discoveries that Kincaid made, but that's where it stops. It just says he made some interesting archaeological discoveries, and then they move right on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was just the teaser article, I guess you would say.
Right.
That was just the, hey, this guy did this thing, and then people reading it went, well, that's interesting. I wonder what happened with all this.
Yeah.
Well,
ran on the front page.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, this is a human interest story at best, at least the first article.
Mm-hmm.
But it was on the front page. So that's interesting to say the least, that something like somebody doing this would be printed on the front page. So it was a celebration of an accomplishment for sure.
Right. But like we said, that's not the end of it.
Right.
Because on April 5th, 1909, there was a second article that was published by the Arizona Gazette, and it was titled Explorations in Grand Canyon, Mysteries of Immense Rich Cavern Being Brought to Light. So let's look at this second article. Now, I was unable to find the entire article, word for word, top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have some excerpts from the article that I'm going to read to you here. And I mean, the excerpts that I found tell you what you need to know.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of fluff. I probably would have cut down the full article anyway, had I found the full article. It says, quote, the latest news of the progress of the explorations, or what is now regarded by scientists as not only the oldest archaeological discovery in the United States, but one of the most valuable in the world, which was mentioned some time ago in the Gazette, was brought to the city yesterday by G.E. Kincaid, the explorer who found the great underground citadel of the Grand Canyon during a trip from Green River, Wyoming, down the Colorado in a wooden boat to Yuma several months ago. According to the story related to the Gazette by Mr. Kincaid, the archaeologist of the Smithsonian Institute, which is financing the expeditions, have made discoveries which almost conclusively prove that the race which inhabited this mysterious cavern, hewn in solid rock by human hands, was of Oriental origin, possibly from Egypt, tracing back to Ramses. If their theories are borne out by the translation of the tablets engraved with hieroglyphics, the mystery of the prehistoric peoples of North America, their ancient arts, who they were, and whence they came, will be solved. End quote. So that was a heavy article.
Yeah.
They're promising a lot.
I mean, they really are. And, you know, you got to understand when this article ran, you know, a discovery like this today would be huge news.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, when you add it in with all the other huge news that you get just inundated with every hour of every day,
right.
It may not be front and center.
Mm-hmm.
But it was here, and because it was big news.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This comes out, people are going to see this and they're going to go, "Hey, you know, we're talking about not just a huge discovery there, you know, they're talking about wealth and riches and tablets and hieroglyphics. They're talking about a lot of things. You know, this could change our understanding of history."
Yeah, for sure.
So this was really, really big.
Yep, exactly. Now, Kincaid, he described his discovery this way. He said he spotted unusual markings and discolorations on a limestone cliff face approximately 42 miles upriver from El Tovar Crystal Canyon. He said he saw stains in the sediment formation about 2,000 feet up the canyon wall, so he tied off his boat and began a, quote, difficult climb up the cliff. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
2,000 feet up a cliff? Really?
I mean, you got to understand, he's come through a lot in this boat. You know, now he's going to make a 2,000-foot climb.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's quite impressive.
He's dedicated to some interesting stains in the sediment.
And he had some skills, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did. I mean, I don't know that, you know, I mean, he's a Renaissance man. I mean,
yeah.
he's obviously pretty good in the boat. You know, he's been out there for a while now, so
Mm-hmm.
he definitely knows how to survive and take care of himself, probably able to hunt and fish and, you know, make sure he's got plenty to eat. But then to have enough enough strength and skill, knowledge, and equipment
Right.
to make this kind of climb.
Yep, exactly. Now, during his ascent, Kincaid discovered a series of steps carved into the sandstone, said numbering in the hundreds. So these steps apparently led to a high shelf on the side of the canyon where Kincaid found what appeared to be a man-made entrance to a cave hidden from view and accessible only by scaling the canyon walls. Now, upon entering the cave and turning on his flashlight, Kincaid reported seeing writing on the walls that resembled ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. He described entering a large chamber that led to a network of tunnels and rooms carved directly into the rock. Now, Kincaid claimed that his discovery was not just a natural cave, but it was a ginormous man-made complex, he says, carved out of the rock. So he apparently spent several days mapping the cave's extensive network and documenting its contents, convinced of the significance of his find. So he says he found this giant cave complex within the Grand Canyon he noticed weird stones and stains up the cliff face. So he wanted to investigate why was that there. On his way, he was able to get steps that were hidden from view.
Right.
And make his way into this man-made cavern complex. This wasn't just a small little dugout in the side of the Grand Canyon. This was a huge cave system that was all man-made. And it was filled with hieroglyphics and a bunch of other stuff. All right, y'all. So let's take a second and talk about a new sponsor of Graveyard Tales that Matt and I are super excited about, and that's Ollie. Now, look, if your dog could talk, I guarantee you they would beg you for Ollie. It's a fresh, whole food diet, and it's just delicious. You know, it can add 2.5 years to your pup's life, so you get a lot more tail wags and adventures with your dog. Ollie delivers clean, fresh nutrition in 5 drool-worthy flavors. Now, you don't have to be a nutritionist or an animal expert to know that real, minimally processed food is going to be the best choice for your dog's health. And Ollie is made in U.S. kitchens with high-quality, human-grade ingredients. They've got no fillers, no preservatives. It's just real food. And our dogs love it. So here's how it works. You introduce them to your dog. You just fill out a 30-second quiz, and then they customize a meal plan based on your dog's weight, activity level, and other info that you put in that list. Then you get the expert recommendations. So they will give you the correct daily portions for your dog's weight based on thousands of other real dog results. Then you will get your welcome kit. So any first timer, they will send out your first box with 2 weeks worth of meals and a guide on how you gradually switch them over from their existing pet food to this new diet. And then you can customize your plan. So they've got 3 meal plans to choose from, and you can choose between a full fresh plan, a fresh topper plan, or a mixed plan with their freshly baked recipes for your special fur baby at home. They also have treats and supplements if you're looking into it, and they are the only fresh dog food that comes with unlimited routine healthy screenings, so you can get your dog on track to living their healthiest and happiest life. Now, dogs deserve the best, and that means fresh, healthy food. You can head to ollie.com/grave. That's OLLIE.com/GRAVE. Tell them about your dog and use our code GRAVE, GRAVE, and you can get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a clean bowl guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back guaranteed. That's OLLIE.com/GRAVE and enter our code GRAVE to get 60% off your first box. So, what did Kincaid say that he found in this cave system at the time of the discovery? So, first thing he says, an elaborate system of tunnels and chambers with hundreds of rooms that were hewn into solid rock. So, this man-made cave system. Hundreds of rooms that, and that's not unheard of, Matt. That is, you look in the Middle East and stuff, they have found underground cities that were made, centuries ago for people to live in, to hide out from persecution or something of that nature. And I don't know how long it took, but it obviously took a long time for them to do it, and a lot of skill, a lot of manpower. Same thing with this cave that Kincaid found. He also found artifacts resembling Egyptian and Tibetan cultures. He found hieroglyphs and inscriptions on walls and stone tablets. He even found mummies in this cave that were apparently wrapped in a bark fabric, like a bark type fabric, and arranged on shelves that were carved out into the side of these cavern walls. He found a large statue of somebody that resembled Buddha. He found copper weapons, including swords and shields, and copper tools and instruments. So, copper tools and instruments in an ancient civilization is fascinating.
Right.
Because a lot of people believe, that's why we have the Stone Age and the Bronze Age and stuff like that, because that's when they say we discovered the ability to use these materials for weapons.
Yeah. And the thing is, we're going to talk more about this when we get into some of my stuff, but, copper is not a very hard metal.
Mm-hmm.
So a tool made out of just copper is not going to be extraordinarily durable.
Right.
So you would constantly have to be reworking it. So you had to do something to make the copper stronger in order to make an effective tool or weapon.
Right. Right.
Because if you've got a sword that's made of nothing but copper, you got maybe 1-2 good shots, and now this thing is dull.
Maybe one, because you put a big bend in it.
Now it's curved,
Yep. So, hit somebody on the side of the head. Yeah, you took them out, but now you've got a C in the side of your blade.
Yeah, if you got to go to war, you got to carry 25 copper swords on you. So, it's just one swipe. Once you run out of swords, you're done.
Yep. So, that makes me think, you're right. You either had to do something to it, or these were ceremonial and not intended to be fought with.
True enough.
He said he also found pottery urns and glazed pottery that contained seeds. So like a seed bank.
Yeah.
He found evidence of an underground city with symmetrical, deliberate design. He found granaries made of cement, and cement is a big thing too, because after the Romans, the cement that people were making was not durable.
Yeah.
Roman concrete was a thing that we could do a whole episode on Roman concrete. Yeah. But to find granaries made of cement was, to me, interesting.
Yeah.
He found a 700-foot long dining hall with cooking utensils in it. So this was a big complex. A living situation for people.
Yeah, and beyond the whole, this is all here, and very unique and unusual. It's enormous and man-made.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond just the fact that it's there, the fact that somebody, a group made this, was able to cut into this stone to this extent,
Right. Right.
is just incredible.
Right. Now, I didn't touch on it in what I read from the articles, but the articles do state that Professor S.A. Jordan of the Smithsonian Institute was leading the scientific examination of the site, including installing electric lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the story also says that this discovery could link prehistoric North American peoples to ancient Egypt, specifically to the time of Ramses, which most historians and scholars believe there was no connection between Egypt and North America at the time.
Right.
It's estimated that the chambers that he found could have housed about 50,000 people. So, ginormous. I'll say it again.
Yeah.
Ginormous cavern.
It does. It puts it into perspective how big this area really was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, initially, the articles that were released, they didn't gain a whole lot of national media attention, even though it was front page story in the Arizona Gazette, like Matt said, probably because it was the Arizona Gazette.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a nationally published newspaper or magazine at the time.
Uh-huh.
So it was more local for Arizona. But, it didn't get that much traction. There's no evidence that there was major public excitement or major controversy following the publication of the story. And the lack of follow-up coverage or, continued public interest suggests that the article didn't have a substantial impact on the reader at the time, or enough of an impact that word of it got to larger national or worldwide publications.
Yeah. And it's weird. You're right. There's no follow-up at all. It didn't seem to have a big impact. So it makes you wonder, well, did the writer or the paper itself just abandon it because it didn't seem like people were all that interested in hearing about it?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I can't speak to what the people of the time would have thought.
Right.
We're talking about, turn of the century, 1900s, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, they had a lot more going on, so they may not have cared.
Right.
I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, human life, how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to take care of my, livestock? How we're building a railroad or whatever. All of that is going to take precedence over this story. It may be interesting. You may sit there and read it and been like, pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
And then moved on because you were going to do nothing about it. You weren't going to go up there and look at it. So maybe you just didn't care, and off it goes.
You felt it didn't affect your day to day. So why do you need to put that much thought into it?
Yeah. So it just kind of faded away. Now, later on, when people would revisit this article and they would contact the Smithsonian about this, they questioned Kincaid's discovery, their involvement, and their relationship with S.A. Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
The Smithsonian denied having any association with the cave or those two men.
Right.
But why? I mean, this certainly seems like one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of North America in history.
Mm-hmm.
So you would surely think that this cave and its contents would be of considerable interest to the Smithsonian. But it didn't seem to be. They were saying they didn't have anything to do with it, despite what the article said. But the answers may lie in G.E. Kincaid's notes. And he describes an area that appeared to be used for metalwork, such as hardening copper to use for tools. Like we said, copper is very soft.
Mm-hmm.
So you build a shovel out of copper, you're not going to dig very far.
Right.
Okay? It's going to wear out really quickly. But the technology to harden copper to use for tools or weapons wasn't known to exist in this area. And so Kincaid writes this, and this is a quote. Here, tools of all descriptions made of copper were found. These people undoubtedly knew the lost art of hardening this metal, which has been sought by chemists for centuries without result. On a bench running around a workroom were charcoal and other materials probably used in the process. There was also slag, suggesting that these ancients were smelting ores, but no trace of where or how this was done was discovered, nor the origin of the ore. So, you understand, this was not something that was known at this time that they're assuming, and certainly not in this area. But as if that wasn't weird enough, he also writes about finding mummified remains of the past inhabitants.
Right.
And he says, quote, the wall slanted back at an angle of about 35 degrees, and on them were tiers of mummies, each one occupying a separate shelf. At the head of each shelf was a small bench on which copper cups and pieces of broken swords were found. Some of the mummies were covered with clay, and all were wrapped in a bark fabric. The urns or cups on the lower tiers were crude, while the higher shelves had finer urns. It is noteworthy that all the mummies examined so far have proved to be male, with no children or females buried here. This leads to our belief that this exterior section was the warriors' barracks.
Mm.
So, again, now we've actually found human remains inside here.
Right.
And
right.
Smithsonian doesn't care. They're like, man, we don't know nothing about it. That's really bizarre.
It is.
And what's even stranger is that they were mummified, which what culture do we think of when we think of mummies? We think of Egyptian culture. They're finding hieroglyphs.
Right.
But we did not, as Adam said earlier, we didn't believe that Egyptian culture reached North America. They were separated by huge bodies of water and distance. They did not migrate that far. So how would they have ever gotten here?
Right.
And even that, it's not just the people, it would be the knowledge, the culture. That's, we talk about, when you think about people like Marco Polo, who brought back what he learned on his journeys through China. He really wasn't going to the other side of the earth.
Right.
To do this. This would have been even, twice as long for them to do this. It would have taken centuries for people to do this.
And normally, when you see a migration of peoples or ideas like that would have to have happened from Egypt to the Grand Canyon, or if you want to say from the Grand Canyon to Egypt, if you want to go with that crazy, that it originated in the Grand Canyon, you would see bits of this left along the way.
Exactly.
In different cultures along the way, like dropping breadcrumb trails. Mm-hmm. So you could follow it from one destination to the other and say, oh, here's mummies here and copper tools. Right here, I see this this culture in between them kind of has the mummification down. You know, they kind of do little bits of that. This other one, they do little bits of from another part of it. And so you can follow this like weaving path from one point to another with that idea and knowledge, because you wouldn't just go from Egypt and go straight to the Grand Canyon and stop without, you know, making any pit stops, talking to anybody, doing anything.
Exactly.
You know, they didn't hop in a helicopter and fly straight from Egypt to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. There would be some evidence of their travels. Because again, it would have taken so long that they would have settled along the way. Now, Jordan and Kincaid studied the relics extensively, but were nowhere close to finding out who these people actually were that built what now they were calling the Citadel. Now, some of the statues that were in there looked like they were Tibetan in design, but there were differences. So it wasn't exactly Tibetan. It had Tibetan undertones. And the hieroglyphs that were found, they thought were Egyptian, but they just weren't exactly right. They were off a little bit. So none of the experts were able to translate any of the text. So we had no clue. So they had no clue as to, you know, they couldn't read it, couldn't understand it. You know, it looked like it could be this, but it wasn't right. So they had no conclusion that led them to who these people were, where they came from.
Right.
Adam, let's take a minute and talk about one of tonight's sponsors, Beam's Dream Powder. I mean, this product is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, we are really, really excited to talk about Beam's Dream Powder. It's a science-backed, healthy, hot cocoa for sleep. I mean, look, we've all had trouble sleeping. Y'all have heard Adam talk about it. You know, how difficult it is to get to sleep. I deal with it too. I can't stay asleep. I'll get to sleep, I'll wake up, move around, and then I'm trying to fall back to sleep. It is a nightmare. But last night, I tried Beam's Dream Powder, and it was unbelievable. I slept all night long, and I woke up, and I didn't feel groggy or sleepy. I actually felt rested and ready to get the day started. And I'm out of bed at 5:30 every morning. So, you know, there are some days where it's just, you're like, oh God, I didn't sleep well, and now I'm up early. And I'm moving around trying to get things stirred. I didn't have to worry about that with Beam's Dream Powder.
And it's amazing that you wake up and are not groggy with...
Oh, I know. That's the best thing. You know, it's just, so many things you take to help you sleep, they linger on in the morning hours. And so you just kind of feel like you're a zombie for the first couple of hours, and you can't get moving. Not with Beam's Dream Powder.
That's right. And like Matt was saying, this is a bedtime essential, and it's so decadent. You can feel guilt-free though, you know, because all of their delicious flavors like sea salt caramel, brownie batter, which is Adam's favorite, vanilla chai, and the Beam Dream Powder original flavor, cinnamon cocoa, only have 15 calories per serving and 0 grams of sugar. So we can say with confidence that better sleep has never tasted better. And Dream is tested for high quality efficacy and formulated to ease your body into rest. So it actually supports all 4 stages of the sleep cycle to help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer, which is what Matt was talking about. Some sleep aids will knock you out, but then you wake up middle of the night and you can't go back to sleep. Or they last for too long and you're just a zombie, you know, because a lot of other sleep aids can cause next day grogginess, but Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. Beam Dream Powder is easy to add to your nighttime routine. Just mix Dream into hot water or milk, froth it, and enjoy before bed.
Yeah, I used coconut milk in mine. It was perfect. The cinnamon cocoa, it's great. I mean, it's a great flavor. You would never know that you're drinking something that is designed to help you sleep. You just feel like, I'm drinking a nice mug of hot cocoa.
Just treating
bed.
yourself.
Exactly.
Yep. So if you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, you can get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/grave, GRAVE, and use our code GRAVE at checkout.
That's shopbeam.com/grave, GRAVE, and use the code GRAVE for up to 40% off. But they did agree on a couple of things. They agreed that the civilization that built this citadel was highly advanced, far more advanced than the Native American tribes that had populated that area for thousands of years. And these people had apparently learned to work with bronze well before the Bronze Age even began.
Mm-hmm.
And this is way outside of what was known to traditional anthropology and archaeology. I mean, nobody was thinking this. That there was a culture on the opposite side of the world that beat the Bronze Age to, the use of bronze.
Right.
Nobody thought that. But they also agreed that this civilization did not emerge locally. They determined that whoever built this cave system came from the other side of the world, long before the Native American tribes arrived. So they determined that these people were highly advanced, educated, skilled, and most likely originated around Egypt or Asia. Again, Tibet, Egypt,
Yep.
they're making these assumptions based on what they're seeing because they don't have anything else to go on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jordan and Kincaid would send boxes of notes and artifacts and drawings back to the Smithsonian, along with a request for additional resources to research the caves more thoroughly. But their request was denied. And then these two men were never heard from again.
Of course.
There's no other record of these two continuing any writings, any other research, any other theories, nothing. It's done.
Dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah. So that's, as bizarre as this story is up to this point, it fits. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
It would end with this bizarre ending of, and these two guys vanish,
Never heard from again.
No record that they did anything else. The most significant discovery in North America, gone.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where we kind of get into the more mysterious aspects and the possible woo-woo. Because in reality, even though these details are highly convincing, all the information about G.E. Kincaid and his story comes from just those two front page articles from the Phoenix Gazette published in 1909. That's it.
Right.
That's all we have. All the quotes, all the notes, all the stuff about the Smithsonian, all the stuff about S.A. Jordan, it comes from those two articles. Okay, we don't have any other writings, no books, nothing. Now, in the years since, mainstream researchers have dismissed these articles as a hoax. It's just a fantastic story designed to sell newspapers in the 19th century. Let's just print it.
Which could be.
It absolutely could be. And what's funny is nobody really seemed to care. You know?
Right.
But it is interesting. I'm like, okay, you go to, this is very elaborate for it to be a hoax. Okay? I mean, you've come up with a lot of details here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess, if you really want to sell the story, you need those details.
Details are key.
But, yeah, this is a lot. I mean, a lot.
It seems like more than you would need.
It does. It seems like way more than you would need, especially if we're talking about 1909 in the, Western United States.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're looking for an attention grabber, this, you got it with the discovery of the cave, the guy making the trip, all that. You've got it.
Yep.
Why go into all this detail? I don't understand that. And it was obvious that people just really weren't enthralled by this.
Yeah.
Or they would have kept writing about it.
I was going to say, if they were, you would have had third, fourth, fifth article.
Yeah.
A whole paper dedicated to it.
Yeah. So, it absolutely could be true that this is entirely a hoax.
It absolutely could be true. It's false.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. But people still believe this story to be real and that the Smithsonian is somehow covering it up.
Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't be the first cover-up we've heard about from Smithsonian.
That's exactly right. You've heard Adam and I discuss on the show that the Smithsonian has, they've been involved or at least accused of covering up things in the past. So
cough,
it's not
giants, cough.
Exactly. It's not outside of the realm. As I said, you remember when we discussed the accusations, the Smithsonian had destroyed bones of suspected giant skeletons in the early 1900s. Those stories too were reported to be hoaxes.
Right.
Okay. Now, there is an author named David Hatcher Childress, and he is a famous author who has published 200 books on ancient mysteries. Now,
and been on a lot of shows.
He's been on a lot of shows too. And he believes that the U.S. government is actively suppressing these archaeological discoveries. And he says that even though the film Raiders of the Lost Ark is fiction, that final scene where they show the warehouse and it's like the Ark of the Covenant is in a box in some Nazi warehouse somewhere?
Yep.
He says that may be closer to reality than we realize.
It's very possible. Just the way I think, it's very possible. Yeah. Because I was looking up something and an article about Smithsonian legends that have been debunked.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, they were debunked by the Smithsonian.
Right.
So that's like, you coming to me and saying something about me that I know is true, but I'm going to tell you it's not. And I'm going to say, no, it's not true because I debunked it.
Yeah.
But one of those things was that they have underground warehouses filled with archaeological discoveries. And they said, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Why would we do that?
Yeah, we found an old water saving well in our foundation, but no, we don't have underground storage. That's crazy.
Yeah. 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 What in the world would make you think that?
Mm-hmm.
But understand, the Smithsonian is an independent federal agency. And it could be hiding some of these discoveries.
Could be.
Just to, I don't know, keep the panic down. Whatever, the giants, or we don't want to rewrite the history books. All this, whatever. There's a million different theories as to why they would do this.
Right.
But Childress believes that this all kind of started in 1881 with the geologist John Wesley Powell, who took over, as the the director, and did some things. And look, now we can start going into John Wesley Powell, but to be fair, that we could do an entire show on him and the Smithsonian and all of this stuff.
And
that's
maybe
really
we
suspect. Will. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting. It is a deep dive, but if you're interested in this kind of stuff, if you like the idea that there are people who have, there are people today that claim they have found evidence of giant skeletons in the United States.
Yep.
I don't mean like, 1920s. I'm talking about like 1975.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
1990s. So, if this is something that you enjoy, start here. Okay. You will find a ton, and it will, one rabbit hole will lead to a dozen more.
Yep.
When you start looking into him. But anyway, back to what we're talking about. So the Smithsonian Institute has publicly stated that no artifacts of this type in this G.E. Kincaid story have ever been found in North or South America, and that the Institute has never been involved in any research or excavations like this in the Grand Canyon or anywhere else. So not only are they dismissing this story, they're saying we haven't done this anywhere. We have done nothing like this.
Which seems weird.
Yeah. It's also weird that the Smithsonian says they have no records of anyone by the name of G.E. Kincaid that has ever even worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they make it very clear that they believe this entire story is a hoax. Okay? They don't even entertain questions about it.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever. Done.
Yeah. They just say no and hang up the phone.
But what's so strange is that even Kincaid seemingly wanted to keep people out. So here is another quote that's attributed to G.E. Kincaid. It says, quote, "First, I must emphasize that the cavern is nearly inaccessible. The entrance is 1,486 feet down the sheer canyon wall. It is located on government land, and no visitor will be allowed there under penalty of trespass. The scientists wish to work undisturbed, without fear of archaeological discoveries being disturbed by curious relic hunters. A trip there would be fruitless, and the visitor would be sent away."
Okay.
That's it. It's funny that he says this. The entrance is 1,486 feet down the sheer canyon wall. Well, how the hell did he get in there?
From the bottom.
Yeah, true. That's true. He went up, but nonetheless, you know.
Why does he give the directions from the top down instead of the bottom up?
I know.
Which is how you would get in there.
Exactly. So the official word on Kincaid's cave is go away. Don't come. We don't want you. We gave it the office.
Yep. This is not the cave you were looking for.
That's right. But despite that, much like other things, go away tends to draw more attention than just silence.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah, when you tell people not to go somewhere, or when you tell them you can't, we don't have anything here. There's nothing here. The Smithsonian knows nothing about this. There's nothing here. Just stay away. what is the first thing that people are going to do?
Yeah.
I wonder what they're covering up.
Exactly.
And so what is the first thing they do then? Oh, I'm going to go find out on my own.
Yeah.
I mean, it's human behavior to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at Area 51.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everything about that place says go away.
Uh-huh.
You're not welcome here.
Yep.
Which just makes people want to go more.
Yeah, that's why people go there. Is because they think you're hiding something.
Yeah, hide it in plain sight. Do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Make it to where people become disinterested in it.
Mm-hmm.
When you put all that extra on it, you're just fueling the fire, in my opinion.
My theory about this is kind of tangential to what we're talking about. My theory about Area 51 is whatever happened there very quickly got moved to Wright-Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep the security and these measures on Area 51, so everybody's attention is on Area 51.
Yeah.
And instead of going to Wright-Patterson, where all the stuff is held and being done and all this stuff, they stay on Area 51 because they've got, armed guards and barbed wire and heat sensing things in the road and all this stuff. So they're like, oh, that's where it is.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if they had like a logo for Area 51 that was like a big red fish?
Mm-hmm. That'd be funny. That'd be funny.
I wonder what that red fish means.
Yeah. It almost looks like a herring, but I'm not sure.
Exactly.
It might not be.
Yep. Okay, so Jerry Wills and his wife Kathy have been studying the Kincaid mystery for years. Now, their idea was to try to find the original base camp of the explorers, which they thought would lead them to the cave. And after years of research and exploring the area where G.E. Kincaid said he found it, Jerry and Kathy discovered a location covered in artifacts from that time. And on the canyon wall just below this area, they believe is the entrance to the underground city. Now, like I said, exploring this place is difficult. Okay?
Yeah.
This is not just walk up with some tennis shoes and look around. The entire area where the cave is supposed to be is now completely off limits by the federal government. There are about 1,000 caves that have been discovered in the Grand Canyon, and a lot of them are man-made. But there's only been about 30 that have been mapped, and a lot of those have been sealed off for quote-unquote safety reasons. And that, you know what? There are tons of people out there that would be willing to take the risk and would even sign a waiver saying the government's not responsible. Just let me go in there.
Yep.
I'll take full responsibility. And in fact, people have actually tried that, but the government still says no. It's too dangerous, so they won't let them go. Now, there are other caves that have been blocked off by steel gates, and this is, under the guise of it's protecting the bat population. Well, it might very well be, but are we worried about bats? I mean, are we doing something that's going to harm the bats? I mean, really?
They talk about a fungus that gets on bats.
Yeah.
And that if you can transfer, I just know this because of Austin. There's large bat populations in Austin, and they say there's like a white nose fungus that gets on the bat and messes them up. But I don't know why just somebody walking around the cave in the Grand Canyon would cause that to spread unless they were with a fungus infected bat prior to that.
I don't know. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I know bats are really good for insect control. They eat thousands of mosquitoes. We've got them around here.
Yep.
You know, if you've got bats in your yard, my parents, I remember where I grew up, my parents have a big in-ground swimming pool. And I grew up with it. My kids have grown up with it, you know. And one of the things we used to love to do was swim at night, you know, in the summer. And you turn on the pool light, and everybody's out on the deck, and it's a lot of fun. So I can remember the older girls were probably, 8, 9, 10, and they're out there splashing around. And Mom's up there going, look at these birds. What are these birds doing? And I was like, Mama, birds don't fly around at night.
Yeah.
I was like, those are bats. She's like, what? I said, look at the way they're flying. What birds do you know fly like that?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, those are bats. And the kids heard me. And so the bats were swooping down to the water because the pool light was on. Yeah. So the bugs were attracted to the light. The bats were coming down and eating the bugs. And the kids were scared because they were getting close, and they were like, the bats are going to bite. It's like, the bats aren't going to get anywhere near you. Yeah. I was like, they can avoid you better than anything. And I was like, you're fine. But they were terrified.
I used to get dive bombed by bats in Hendersonville because I'd take the dogs out at dusk and be out there in the yard, and the mosquitoes and stuff would come around you just from body heat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then the bats know that if there's a mammal, they're going to attract mosquitoes, and I can eat those mosquitoes. Mm-hmm. So I'd have bats flying all around, while I'm out there in Hendersonville, and not a one touch me.
Yeah, you could do everything. You could flap your arms. You could swing stuff. Bats, they can avoid. You couldn't shoot a bat out of an air for nothing. They're able to dodge stuff. They know it's coming. So, that's why I just kind of wondered. I was like, this may very well be legit. I don't know. I'm not saying it's not. That's what they say.
Right.
So when the Wills team tried to explore the area, an unmarked plane appeared out of nowhere and flew right over their heads. And they felt like they were being watched.
Sure.
It was obvious they were being watched. Because this area of the Grand Canyon is a no-fly zone, and no aircraft is allowed to fly below the rim.
Mm-hmm.
But they got one come right down right over top of them. And Jerry Wills is convinced that this was a warning. And so his team decided that they should not continue, that this is probably a bad idea. Now, exploring the cave from above is almost impossible. Like we said, it's down a cliff face, 1,400 feet. You're not going to be able to get down there from the top. And you can't fly over it. But what about coming from below? Like Adam said, that's how GE Kincaid did it.
Mm-hmm.
Another group of explorers tried to do this, but as they got near the location, a black helicopter showed up. Not a tourist helicopter, and it wasn't even a black civilian helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
It was an Apache combat helicopter.
Which is nuts.
Right. When this team explored the area above looking for the ventilation shafts Kincaid wrote about, and seeing this as a possible way down, they found massive random cement blocks in the middle of nowhere. And some of these blocks are platforms near the edge of the rim with hardware and steel anchor rings that would be used to assist mountaineers going over the edge, like rappelling down.
Mm-hmm.
So when they asked about this, the authorities say that those are merely reinforcing structures to prevent rock falls.
Sure.
But they're looking at this going, okay, so number one, the people that are going out there, like you said, they're obviously skilled. They have the ability to do this. They know what they're getting themselves into. So they come prepared. if they're prepared, it means they've done stuff like this before.
Right.
So they recognize things. It's like we talk about hunters. You know, you see something in the woods, you hear something in the woods, you know what should be there and what shouldn't be there, and you're going to recognize, is that a turkey or is that something different that I've never heard before? So when they see this, they're going, this looks like this is a platform used to rappel down the side of this cliff.
Right.
That is 100% what this is to us. And the government says, no. We put this there to prevent rock falls. Why? What?
Yeah.
If the rock falls, who cares? You've already got this closed off. There's nobody down there.
Yeah. You don't have to.
What are we going to lose?
Save anybody from it.
If it did, it would be a natural thing. So, I mean, you know, this whole thing is one big natural hole. So what if some rocks fall? Who cares?
And I'm sure they do all day, every day.
Right. So, you know, but these guys are looking at this going, this does not look right. This looks like this either is being used or has been used for that purpose, to get down in there with somebody. But, you know, who knows? Now, you hear all that, and let's bring it home. The crux of this story really is that could an advanced civilization have come to North America, settled in the Grand Canyon area thousands of years before the native tribes? Is it even remotely possible? We already have evidence that people landed in North America before Columbus. Okay, the Vikings, you know, they came to North America 500 years before the New World was discovered. And there's growing evidence that Chinese explorers also landed in North and South America before the Vikings. But landing on the East Coast or the West Coast, that's a far cry from getting all the way to the Grand Canyon. You know, that's a whole nother deal.
Right.
So, circling back to the top of the show, when Adam mentioned the Hopi have a very intriguing legend about the ant people. These are humanoid creatures that are smaller than humans with pale skin and large insect-like eyes. And according to the Hopi legend, there were a series of catastrophes that hit the earth many thousands of years ago, and the Hopi were about to be destroyed. And so a sky god emerged from what they called a moving star. And the sky god brought the Hopi to the ant people, who brought them underground into these caves for protection. The sky god then got back into his moving star and flew away above the clouds. Let that sink in, okay? There's a lot to absorb here. Ant people, sky gods on a moving star. I mean, what does this sound like? I mean, really?
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, the Hopi aren't alone. The Paiute also have a legend about the Have-Masuves. And they are described as being humanoid with golden skin and large eyes, looking a lot like what we know as gray aliens. They lived in a vast underground city and traded with people from far away. The Paiute described the weapons of the Have-Masuves as silver tubes that shot lightning and could instantly kill a man. The most interesting part of the Have-Masuve legend is that they supposedly flew silver canoes in the sky, which made a humming sound and could maneuver like an eagle at great speeds.
Yep.
So I told you we was going to get into the woo-woo now. You know, so just to kind of catch you up, if you're scoring at home, we have a story about a discovery with caves full of relics from other parts of the world that we cannot identify. Then it goes away, and the government says, hey, guess what? Nobody else can come here. You're not allowed. Don't come. It's too dangerous. Stay out.
Yep.
Some people try, and the government obviously, not so subtly says, go away.
Yeah.
Okay?
But there's nothing to see there.
There's nothing to see here. But then we have native legends of what sounds like an alien civilization coming to this area with modern technology, which just so happens to be what was inside Kincaid's cave.
Right.
Okay?
Right. And a lot of the same thoughts or through lines as the gods of ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
Yep. The gods that return to the sky.
Yeah.
And it would make sense, like, to me, and this is just all theoretical, obviously, because we 100% believe the Smithsonian and that there is absolutely nothing going on in the Grand Canyon. We just have it, blocked off by the government for no reason at all, and check up on people with Apache helicopters for no reason at all. But theoretically, if it were true, then it would make sense that if the, quote, ant people did come and go, you had the sky god riding on a star that came down and gave some type of information to the Hopi and the other civilizations living there, then they could theoretically get in their canoe in the sky and go over to Egypt and deposit some of the same information there. And that's why you would have two or more civilizations on Earth doing similar things with similar advanced technology for the time.
Yeah, right.
And not have little breadcrumbs in between those two to say we walked from here to there.
Yeah. Because their flight was nonstop direct flight.
Exactly. No connecting hub, no layover.
But it not only is an answer to Kincaid's cave, it also fills in some gaps with Mayan pyramids, things that you see in Peru and throughout South America, Easter Island, and how these places were connected by, through ancient history that modern day we don't understand how they would have known. They did not, to our knowledge, they did not have any means to communicate with one another. If the Egyptians built these pyramids, how in the world did the Mayans do it too?
Right.
And do it so similarly? Why are these things all on a line? We talked about that in one of our very first live streams. This circle that intersects all of these things, you can draw around the globe. If you open up your mind to the idea that these people in these flying space canoes, were able to circumvent the planet and share information, it kind of makes sense. But you're going, Matt, space canoe, and you're going to tell me that makes sense? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just saying that theory kind of makes everything work, because without that, we still will have no idea how they did any of this.
Right.
But Adam and I, we are of the same mind that there was an advanced civilization. There just seems like there had to be on this planet, that we lost all of the information, whether they were aliens or whether they were here, whatever, it doesn't matter. There was an advanced civilization that understood things that we don't understand they knew.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whether it was flight, whether it was architecture, whether it was metallurgy, or all of it.
Yeah.
You know, they knew way more than we actually realized they knew.
Yep, exactly.
But what do you guys think? I mean, are we like, you're like, man, this is a lot of fun, y'all, but this is just too far out there.
You are crazy.
Yeah. I mean, just let us know. I mean, it's to me, this is absolutely fascinating because why guard something like this? What does it matter? I mean, you know, you really need an Apache helicopter to make people go away from a natural, formation? I mean, is it all that bad? I don't know, but let us know. And the best place to do that is in our Facebook group. It's called The Graveyard. Go on there. We got thousands of people in there. They're sharing ideas. They're sharing experiences. They're sharing jokes and everything. It's a fantastic place. So if you haven't gotten in there already, check it out. Don't forget to go to our website, which is graveyardpodcast.com. And there you can find links to purchase Graveyard Tales merchandise, t-shirts, coffee mugs, all that stuff. You can even listen to the show. And that's where you can sign up and become a patron. And we appreciate everyone who has donated to the show. Adam spoke about it at the beginning of the show. So go check it out. We got a huge back catalog of bonus episodes for you to check out. Man, pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So until next time, we'll save you a seat in the graveyard.
See you soon.